plan and paying in installments for property, mistakes you should avoid, and what you should do instead. You are welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Tosi Omotosho. I am a real estate and business lawyer, and today we're focusing and doing a deep dive on common mistakes people make when it comes to paying in installment for properties or doing off-plan arrangements. So week in, week out, I get complaints from people who have gotten burnt in this type of arrangements. And whilst these arrangements offer you a way to own property without putting all the money for that property down immediately, it also comes with a con. And that is because the transaction takes a period of time to be completed, there's a risk involved. So usually we have cases where people would pay for properties or lands, pay over a period of time, and by the time they finish payments, they can't get allocation of the land. Or if it's building, this one is really very rampant these days. They are asked to pay an additional amount, totally different from what was initially agreed upon. So these are some of the things that issues that comes up in off-plan and paying in installments. So today I'll be talking to you about what you should avoid, the common mistakes you should avoid, and what exactly you need to do. So we are going straight right in. If you are joining me live, type in live in the comment section, and for those who are watching the replay, type in hashtag the replay. All right, now the first mistake that people make in real estate transactions generally, even despite the peculiarity of this type of transactions, is that they don't understand the peculiarity of real estate. So real estate is unlike any other thing that you would buy. For instance, if you're buying groceries from your children, you won't, okay, let's say you won't buy a phone. Go into the store, you buy the phone, you take it with you, and that's it. Whatever anything else, most things else you're buying, you make payments and then you go with what you've bought, right? But with real estate, when you buy it, it's fixed. So even after ownership of a particular real estate has changed, it is still at that particular location. It's not going to shift. So you won't buy a house and take the house along with you. You understand my point? So you have to understand that this brings in a lot of peculiarities to the way you deal with real estate. So you wouldn't transact or deal with real estate the same way you will do transactions for other types of assets. That's very important. You need to understand real estate. Now, number two thing is, because of this first peculiarity of real estate, then you need to know how to do the necessary investigations when you are buying real estate. It's very important. If you're joining live, type in live, and if you're watching the replay, just type in hashtag replay. All right. So when you buy real estate, when you want to buy real estate, you need to know that there are things you have to look out for. You have to carry out your investigations. You have to do your due diligence. You can't just get a real estate transaction and you're informed about it and that's it, and you just go ahead. No questions asked, no verifications asked, no professionals engaged. No, it's like setting yourself up for failure. It's like setting yourself up to lose your money. All right. So a few of the things you would need to do, due diligence steps, is if inspecting the property physically. If you're outside the country and you cannot do that, you can get a trusted person to do that for you and maybe do a video. So you have an idea of what exactly you want to invest in. Number two is you have to engage, you have to investigate the ownership of that property, because someone cannot give you what they don't have. So if someone has any legal issues with relating to the ownership of that property, if they are the ones selling to you, you are going to inherit whatever legal issues they have. Right? You're going to inherit it. So these are the things you need to ask. Who is the owner? What's the proof of the ownership? What title do they have? What documents do they have? Do they have documents at all? Is the title registered? All right, these are the questions you need to ask before you put down your money. It's very important. All right, so doing due diligence, asking the right questions is something you have to do. Don't make the mistake of just investing and you just see a flyer, or you've been told a property is somewhere and you should go ahead and buy it, and then you just go ahead and buy it. You do no questions asked. I can tell you for free that you're setting yourself up for failure. Number three is involving the right professionals. Now, I always say this. One mistake you would make is to do it yourself in real estate. You will need your realtor, you will need a lawyer, you will need a surveyor. If you're buying a building, you will need an engineer. So you cannot do it yourself. That's a huge mistake you will make would be to invest in real estate without engaging the right professionals. Because when something isn't your field, you cannot DIY your way to it. You cannot read your way to it too. As a lawyer myself, when I invest in real estate, I engage other professionals. Yes, I talk to realtors, I talk to surveyors, I talk to engineers. I don't do it on my own. The only aspect I can do on my own is the legal aspect because I'm learned in that and I have years of experience in that. It's my area of competence. All right, so don't make the mistake of doing it yourself. Remember this adage that says it takes a village to raise a child? It's the same thing in real estate. A successful real estate investment will not be an outcome of you alone. You will need an entire village, literally. So you have to learn to engage these professionals. Now, the fifth mistake that people make, the fifth mistake in this type of transaction is they don't understand the peculiarity of this transaction. They don't understand the peculiarity of an off-plan or paying in installments. It's not like you're buying and you're getting what you bought immediately. So it's peculiar. It's different from every other transaction. I always ask my clients when they reach out to me and say, I want to buy property. So I ask, are you paying everything fully now, or it's an off-plan or you're paying in installments? Once there's payment in installments or off-plan arrangement in it, then there are a lot of things you need to put into consideration. All right, so these 5 mistakes are things you must not do. Trust me, these are practical tips I'm sharing with you, and they are practical tips from experiences of people. The reason why I chose this topic was because almost every week I get questions like this. I get issues like this. I get people who tell me, I need you to write. I bought a land. I paid it over a year and I can't get allocation. In fact, I don't even know where the company is. The number is not going, or the MD is not around. Different stories, like different stories. So I thought to myself to share this with you. And these are 5 mistakes you should avoid. All right. Now that you know what you should avoid, what should you then do? All right, what should you then do? This is very practical, and I need you to grab a pen and a paper to jot this. Don't miss this. Now, the first thing is when you are buying property off plan installments, even if you're paying in full, you need to check the title of that property. The person selling to you, their ownership is what I mean by title. So anytime you hear me say title, I mean ownership. So you need to check their ownership. How did they become the owner? What document do they have? They don't have documents. What shows that they are the owner? All right, because you can't give what you don't have. You can't buy from someone who has legal issues. The legal issues will flow to you, and that's why sometimes people will buy property and the person who sold to them, and then all of them are dragged to court by a totally different party. You don't want to inherit all this. I mean, you've worked so hard for your money. You need to know that you're putting your money to good use. So the ownership is very important, and it's not something you can do on your own. You will need a lawyer to also check for you, run the necessary checks, look at the necessary documents, ask the necessary questions. You can't know all the questions. I have a video that I will put down in the description box below, questions to ask before you buy real estate. 3 questions. All right, you should make sure you watch that video. By the time you even ask those 3 questions, even before you talk to your lawyer, sometimes you might know that the deal is a bad deal, and then you move next to the next one. And then when you move to the next one, you ask those questions and it seems okay. It seems this person knows what he or she is doing. It seems it's safe. You would then have to call your lawyer, who will then take it up from there. Right? So very important, that ownership, because nobody can give you what they don't have. That's very, very important. The second is, don't sign any contract without having your lawyer look at it and interpret it to you. So oftentimes when you go into transactions like this, you'll be given a contract of sale. Because you've not yet finished payment, you can't be given the deed of assignment that is transferring that property already to you. So what you'll be given is a contract of sale. Is the document that we would have on your hands that would spell out everything regarding that transaction until it is completed, and then you're now given the deed of assignment that transfers ownership to you. I have a video, YouTube video on deed of assignment that will leave the link to below in the description box. So when it's that contract of sale, you shouldn't sign it. And this cuts across every type of contract. Don't sign any contract you don't understand. So you don't sign away your freedom. Okay, now that's an extreme case, but really take it literally. If you don't understand something, don't sign it. Make sure you have your own lawyer on that transaction. Don't just because you're buying from a company or from an individual and they've given you something and you just take your hand and then you sign, because you will be bound by whatever you sign. All right, that's very, very important. So make sure your lawyer will look at it. Your lawyer would interpret to you and would also give you legal advice. If there are times that you need to negotiate, your lawyer would tell you that this term isn't favorable, this isn't favorable. Like I've had cases like that where we have to negotiate. I have to negotiate on behalf of my clients in this type of transactions, all right? And I explain to my client, this is what this means, this is the implication now and in the future. And this is what I will advise that you do. All right, so that is very important. Now, the third thing that you need to do is watch out for clauses in that contract. If you're buying land, for instance, when would allocation be done? Of course, if you have a lawyer on board, they would go through all this with you. When would allocation be done? Because this issue of allocation, especially in land, is a very big issue. So people buy property, they buy land, they pay for land over a period of time. And for months, even years, they cannot have access to that land. They are not given physical allocation of that land. All right, so you want to nip that in the bud. Being a smart investor means learning from other people's mistakes, looking ahead and thinking ahead and thinking, okay, if this can cause an issue, then we had better discuss this and trash this beforehand. All right, so you want to make sure that the allocation is trashed out. How will the contract be terminated? If I decide I'm not going ahead with this transaction, what would happen? You need to consider that too, because sometimes life happens. You have planned that, okay, this transaction you'll be able to pay up within, let's say, for example, 6 months, 8 months, and something happens. What are the provisions in that contract that would apply if something like that happens? You need to pay attention to that. You need to look at every other clauses. All right, how will disputes be resolved? The force majeure clause. So the contract of sale is usually a very detailed document, and the reason it must be detailed is because that is what you're going to hold on to. That's what you're going to hold on to. I mean, I've had instances where I had a recent instance where a client had bought a house, so they had been paying for the way they are in diaspora, they had been paying for I think a year. So now they are done with the payment, and then the company sends them a letter saying, oh, there's been inflation, which is understandably so. We all know that inflation and the building industry these days, they're not friends, and that they're going to be increasing the price. All right, so I told my clients, I said, send me your contract of sale, let me see what's in there. Okay, it is what is in the contract of sale that will now be able to help us determine whether they can go ahead, whether that increase is in line with the contract or not. So that's why you can't joke with that document. Okay, you can't joke with it. You must ask for it, and you must make sure you carry your lawyer along so he or she can look at it and interpret it for you, because that's what if any dispute happens, that's what you would have cause to go back to. Whether you go back, you're going to court, or you're reporting to a regulatory agency, authority, or you want to do mediation, whatever you want to do, that contract is going to be pivotal to what would happen if there is a dispute. Do you get my point now? All right. The fourth point is that, in fact, this is very, very important. This is what you should even do first. I don't know why I put it for the third. I should have made it the first. Before going into this type of transactions, please check the track record of the party you are dealing with, whether it's a company or an individual. What's their track record? Do they deliver on projects? What do their past clients have to say about them? Because you're risking a lot of things by going into this type of transaction. Of course, it's beneficial to you because oftentimes you see an ad and you think, oh, this is 80 million. Do I really have 80 million now? But then when you think about it, 10 million here, 5 million there, 12 million there, 15 million here, before you know it, the 80 million is complete. So the benefit of this type of transactions is that it helps you pay over a period of time. You get my point? But at the same time, you are staking your money on this company that is selling to you. That's if it's a company or an individual. So you want to ask around, do they deliver on projects? You want to ask about them, check their track record, check their reviews, talk to their clients so that you can know what to expect. That's the first thing, because if you hear only bad stories, that might be a red flag for you, except you want to join the statistics. All right, so check their track record, very important, and it's very crucial. And the fifth point is you should not make any payment without some form of documentation. So when you make payments, make sure you have some form of documentation. As a matter of fact, before my clients usually make payments, I usually ask the companies to send us a draft of their contract of sale so that we know what we are in for. You don't want to buy, you've bought a property, you started paying, you've done a deposit, they now send you a contract, and now looking at all those clauses I talked about, you're seeing them there. But you've paid. So what will happen if you find something that is not favorable to you and the company says, no, we are not going to change it, your deposit is hanging, you now have to start running up and down to get back your deposit, get a lawyer to maybe file a case or do a mediation or lay a report to regulatory authority. It can be really messy. All right, so requisite documentation is very important. In fact, ask for it before you make payment. A lot of real estate companies are super organized and they will do that for you. They will send you the draft and say, okay, this is what would give you when you make payment, but at least you can look through it and you can have an idea of what you will be getting. All right, very important. Let me know if this has been helpful in the comment section, and if you have questions, please feel free to go ahead and ask your questions, and make sure you subscribe to this channel because I post videos on this channel every week, real estate and business law tips in easy to understand language. All right, now if you have listened to this, you have watched this video and you are saying to yourself, Tosin, I need to engage your services, I am in this type of transaction, I am about to enter, or I'm already in this type of transaction and I have run into a gridlock, I'll leave a link in the description box below for contacts and enquiries. And if you're watching the replay, you have questions, feel free to drop them down in the comment section and I'll be glad to answer your questions. All right, so I guess we do not have no questions. All right then, so we would be calling it a day on today's live stream. All right, make sure to share with your friends and everyone who you think would find this information very helpful. So till next time when we have a live stream on this page, feel free to check other videos that I would post here. I have videos on a deed of assignment, what it is, what type of document it is, why it's important, what it should contain, who should draft it. I have video on Excision and Gazette. That's a very common term you'd have heard, especially in Lagos. What does an excision means? All right, I have 7 steps to buying a land in Nigeria and avoid getting scammed. All right, so I'm going to be leaving all the links so you can watch them and learn. Thank you for joining in and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.